Hey there, I'm Christy Wilhelmi from Gardenerd. Today I want to talk to you about crop rotation, which is really important in any successful garden plan. What is crop rotation and why do you need to use it? Let's break it down right now. Real quick, before we get started though, I want to do a quick plug for my upcoming online course, Plan Your Abundant Edible Garden. Everything I'm about to share with you today is in that course, along with so much more that will help you plan your most efficient, most productive vegetable garden for your small space garden yet. So check that out at learning.gardenerd.com. Okay, now, what is crop rotation and why do you need to use it? Let's talk about that. Crop rotation means a couple of different things. I want to start by talking about it's the physical act of placing your crops in a different location every year on a rotation of 3 or 4 years. So they never go back to the same place they've been planted for at least 3 years, and 4 if you can. That can be kind of hard if you have one bed, so mentally you can sort of divide your bed into spaces and then move them. But there's a lot more to this. There's a reason why we want to rotate crops. First, diseases. Some crops, like the Brassicaceae family, for example, can leave behind disease in the soil. They can develop clubroot disease, and that stays in the soil. Your tomatoes might have Fusarium wilt or Verticillium wilt or something like that, and that lives in the soil. There are also pests that can live in the soil and pupate in the soil and then come back and go after the same crop they came from the year before if you've planted them in the same place. So the idea is move those crops that attract those bugs to a different location, and then they might have a chance of survival, which is great. The other reason to rotate your crops is because certain crops take up certain nutrients from the soil. And you don't want to overtax your soil by growing the same thing in it year after year after year. There are heavy feeders, and there are light feeders, and then there are heavy givers. Now, you may have, in your own research, run across lists of plants that are heavy feeders and medium feeders and light feeders, but for the sake of this lesson, to make it easy, I'm grouping medium and heavy feeders together, and then there are light feeders, and then there are heavy givers. So let's break that down right now. Heavy feeders are, for the sake of this conversation, pretty much anything, almost anything that makes a fruit or a shoot. And that's going to be your tomatoes, your peppers, your corn, your cucumbers and melons, all your squashes. Those are the kinds of things that need a lot of nutrients in order to grow big and then produce fruit at the end. So those are your heavy feeders. Light feeders include all of your salad greens, your lettuces, mustard greens, arugula, your tender herbs like cilantro, parsley, basil. Light feeders also can include Swiss chard and spinach. These guys grow with minimal nutrients. And if you're also dealing with limited sunlight, those are going to be easier to grow too because they don't need full sun in order to produce what they're supposed to produce, which is their leaves. Heavy givers, on the other hand, are the things that give back to the soil. They help add nitrogen to the soil. And those things are your legume family crops, your beans, your peas, and your things like clover and alfalfa. They pull atmospheric nitrogen out of the sky and fix it into their roots. And then if you cut those crops down when about a third of the flowers are open, they will release the nitrogen into the soil. So that's a giver. Now, another thing you need to know about heavy givers, at least the legume family crops, is that they're technically nitrogen neutral, meaning they absorb that nitrogen out of the sky, they fix it in their roots, but then if you leave them long enough to produce beans and peas, they actually use that nitrogen back up. And then they also need phosphorus and potassium in order to produce the fruit. So they aren't completely neutral, they still need nutrients, but they're considered givers if you're going to grow them in the cover crop stage. So when you plan out your crop rotation, moving crops from bed to bed to bed, I like to group my plant families together. So all my Brassicaceae are together. All my lettuces and light feeders are together. My cover crop goes in one bed, and then maybe another, kind of root vegetable slash onions and garlic kind of thing will happen over here. And if you're rotating those each to a new bed every year by keeping your plant families together, it's going to make it easier to know what you planted where year after year, and it'll make crop rotation a lot easier. Now, I know this sounds like a lot, but I explain it a little bit more in both Gardening for Geeks and in my online course, Plan Your Abundant Edible Garden. The idea, however, is to rotate your crops so that you follow a heavy feeder with either a light feeder or a heavy giver. And then you're replenishing the soil in that bed and not taxing it further, so when you come around to planting a heavy feeder in that bed again, it's ready. You can see how crop rotation will help you have a healthier garden because it helps to steward your soil and not tax it too much. It also helps keep your plants disease-free and pest-free. For more information about crop rotation, plant families, and a whole bunch of other stuff, visit gardenerd.com and check out my books, Gardening for Geeks, Grow Your Own Mini Fruit Garden, and my novel, Garden Variety, which has lessons about gardening peppered throughout. Check out my online course, Plan Your Abundant Edible Garden, that will walk you through the process of planning your garden on paper from soup to nuts, season after season, year after year, for the rest of your gardening days. Happy gardening.